Hey guys, Jesse here, and today I'm going to be taking a look at the 1 to 144 scale high grade RX-78-2 Revive Gundam. This is Bandai's second model in the Revive line of high grades that they're pushing out, and what they're advertising with this new line of models is better proportions and far better articulation for a lot of these kits that haven't seen a sort of quote unquote like high grade 2.0 treatment. So stuff like the gun cannon, the RX-78-2, the Freedom Gundam, and so on and so forth are getting these new Revive kits that are they're just nicer in terms of build and posability and function and stuff like that. In the case of the RX-78-2, it did see a new high grade model a few years back in the form of the G30th line of RX-78-2 that had like a lot of nice lining detail and stuff like that. So you have some other options in terms of high grades. You have this guy, the original, and then the G30th. So I would say, after this review, you can decide for yourself. I'm actually going to be comparing this guy to an original high grade RX-78-2. He's in this sort of pastel color because this is the Gundam Breaker Special Edition one, but it is an original build, and part for part, it's exactly the same as the original RX-70-2, as well as the accessories. So the first thoughts on this kit are just, it's actually really nice. I really enjoyed building this guy, and I really enjoyed how he came out. I think the proportions are more along the lines of a taller and slimmer RX-70-2, a slimmer torso with larger shoulders and skinnier legs. I think this is proportioned more realistically, as if this Gundam actually existed in our real world walking around, he'd look more like this rather than the anime sort of large wide torso and small shoulder armor RX-78-2. So if you're looking for anime accurate proportions, this guy doesn't really have them. But if you're looking for just a better proportioned RX-78-2 overall, I think this guy is the way to go. So I'm actually going to talk about the build first, because I'd like to do the articulation comparing it to the original high grade. So you also notice that I only have this arm detailed up and the head not detailed. That's because he's going to be used for a diorama I'm working on, the final shot. And for those of you who don't know, in the final shot, the RX-78-2 doesn't have a head and he doesn't have his left arm. So I didn't even bother to... I built them just for this review, but they're going to be removed once I start working on that. In any case, the build on this guy was actually really fun and interesting. It's not difficult at all in any way, shape, or form, but it does differ from the standard high grade. Usually the way high grades handle armor and attaching limbs and stuff is taking two armor pieces and sandwiching them together with a polycap somewhere in there to hold them together. This one kind of has a partial inner frame. These arms and parts of the legs actually have a gray piece inside, and then you put armor on them like a master grade. And then this upper bicep part is actually a piece you slip on from the top. So that, that's sort of a build technique you see in master grades. The torso here is just two blue parts sandwiched together around the yellow part, so that's pretty standard. But yeah, it eliminates a lot of seam lines, which is what a lot of high grades have problems with, and especially the older RX-70-2. You can see I built this guy a while ago before I really learned techniques on how to remove seam lines and stuff, but there's a bad seam line on the thighs, down here. And then this ankle armor, it's a bit of a mess when it comes to seam lines on the older kits. So it's nice to see that they've improved covering that up. A lot of the seam lines here are just armor detail. So the seam line here on the arm that would be there is just a detail. You can see back here, that lined part is the part where the parts connect. The only bad seam lines you're going to get are in the back here of the leg. As you can see, I'm still working on filling those in with glue and stuff to cover them up there. And then this one's actually kind of one that bothers me, is that the seam line on the side of the head, that's a really bad one. And that's one that you see on a lot of high grades. And it's something that all high grades do. And I really wish they did something to prevent that. That's the seam line on the side of the head that goes from a sort of cheek over the top of the head to the other cheek is really annoying to get rid of because it covers so many small crevices. Maybe if they took the sides of the head and sandwiched them together that way, because you already have a detail line going down the center, it might have been easier, because then you just have to fix up the top part that runs along the camera. But yeah, those are your only bad seams on this guy. Like I said, I really wish they found a different way to construct the head. So, oh, and another note is the eyes here. These eyes are stickers, right? They're just standard eye stickers, but they give you these two silver stickers, because this eyepiece is actually clear yellow, and you can put these silver stickers on the red piece that it sits on behind it to make the yellow glow, and then you can just paint around the molded in detail for the lines black, or use a Gundam marker, and then you can have some really nice shiny yellow eyes, very similar to a real grade in terms of how you can make those eyes glow without any sort of LED or anything like that. There is a sticker for the crotch area, but that's already molded in red, and that yellow part detail is already molded, so I just painted that. So if you want, you can use the sticker, but honestly, that's really easy to paint, and I'll just paint that in. And then you have two more red stickers for the cameras, and that's about it. So let's just take a quick look at this guy standing next to an original RX-78-2. And as you can see, square them up a bit. Yeah, the proportions are far different. The original is very wide and bulky, with kind of, when you put them, like when it stands on its own, it looks normal, but when you put them next to each other, the small shoulder armor looks kind of